coming in. Yeah, flex, I just wanna win. Yeah, LABB, who we running with. Yeah, 2233, I'm on 10 again. Yeah.
Let's move to other news in sports news right now. So we'll talk about some NFL offseason moves that happened. So recently, Juju Smith signed a 1-year deal to the Kansas City Chiefs, and also Khalil Mack got traded to the Chargers, and Amari Cooper got also traded to the Browns. So with those moves right now, all those moves, let's talk about Juju Smith signed. How you think that's going to impact the Kansas City Chiefs offense, making it important?
So yes, the rich get richer, but I think that because you have too many pieces, too many mouths to feed, somebody is not going to like it. And the way Juju carried himself, I think that will actually not be a good fit. And I understand he's just doing this for a setup for his next big contract. So it's like, all right, let me dance around a little bit with the Chiefs and work myself towards another big contract. I just don't feel like he's going to actually get enough targets to where another team will see him and know, hey, listen, Juju Smith, he has been around, he has the capabilities of being this all-star, this elite receiver. However, I think he got lost in the fold going to Kansas City. Now, instead of giving him a 4-year, let's say, I don't know what the receivers are averaging, let's say 120 mil, we're going to give you a 4-year 85 mil. Why? Because your numbers don't prove that we should give you a full-on contract. Now, had you gone to, let's say Dallas or Atlanta, one of those teams on a 1-year contract, we would have been able to see a lot more. Why? Because you have less to compete with receiver-wise. Whereas going to Kansas City, you got these other receivers, and now, hey, listen, did you really put up the numbers that you should have been putting up, being that you in this crowded offense? So I mean, I don't hate the move. I'm just thinking from a different standpoint that it wasn't the best move for him.
I kind of disagree. From that standpoint, I look at it like this: when you have an offense such as the Kansas City Chiefs, where they have Travis Kelce, Cheetah, and etc., that's gonna have less defensive attention your way, so that may provide you with opportunities to get more targets. Now, I always looked at Juju Smith-Schuster as a number 2 wide receiver. I don't think he's a number 1 wide receiver. He's talented, he's good, but you could see his numbers decline as soon as Antonio Brown left Pittsburgh. So I don't see it as a bad move for him. It's not the best move for him, but I don't see it as a bad move for him. This could be a springboard for him to get some extra targets, meet his quotas, get some signing bonuses on his contract, and see where he could go from here. Yeah, he's playing for another contract, but playing with an offense where you don't get the number 1 corner staring you down all the time. You could get possibly the number 2 or number 3 corner staring you down. That's a good opportunity for them to get more catches.
I get that, but McCole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson, you got all these other receivers who are in the same offense, and listen, I think a few of those receivers, maybe Pringle, Hardman, I think Juju's better than Hardman. Pringle, I think he's just a little bit better than Pringle. But you're talking about those other receivers who did not demand as much attention as Cheetah, as Kelce. They didn't get the targets. They didn't get all of that. They didn't get the attention. But yet we're still not getting the numbers. So I think Juju's still going into the offense. It's not going to be one of those things where, all right, well, because Tyreek Hill is on this side and Travis Kelce is on the same side, and you got Juju on the other side, we're gonna leave Juju on the island, by himself. Nah, they gonna still give him that attention, and it's going to leave still the McCall Hardman, the Demarcus Robinson, those other receivers is going to still be open, and they're going to still now get more attention because they're going to have to go against the backside linebacker who can't really cover out in space.
I get that.
I mean,
look at it like this.
Is my thoughts.
My only question mark for me, it was how long it's going to take for Juju Smith-Schuster to be implemented to that offense. But I know from past history with Andy Reid's, he gets the most out of the offense.
That's true.
And his players.
That's true.
So that's why I'm saying like Juju Smith-Schuster will thrive in that offense. Will he be the best number one wide receiver? No,
he ain't no number one.
No, but I feel like he will be productive and have a good season where he can land himself a good contract potentially after the next year, after the year after.
A good contract, yeah. What he should be getting if he, like I said, go to a different team, probably not. But you know, it's something for us to see. It's something for us to see.
All right, so the next offseason move will be Khalil Mack traded to the Chargers. So
that I think was in Khalil Mack's favor, because you're talking about a defense in the Chargers that already had a stud on one side. Then you had some studs that on the back end as DBs, right? You got a hard hitting safety. You got some corners that, listen, honestly, not to say, I wouldn't say leave them out there on a man-to-man. They're not Xavier Howard type. Yeah, you could, but listen, Khalil Mack still can bend the corner, still can rush the quarterback, can still, listen, line up with the best of them. I think with the Chargers, with what they did this offseason, and even, we didn't even talk about that, or we don't even have that on there, but we're talking about Mike Williams re-signing with them. Listen, that offense stayed together, same offense. Defense just got a little bit better by adding another pass rusher, because now Joey Bosa, who led the league in sacks, no, he didn't. He was number 2.
Yeah.
But still, Joey Bosa, who is a known threat on one end, now you got Khalil Mack on the other end as another threat. Yeah. Listen, just think about the Bears when Khalil Mack first went to Bears. I think that's going to be the same type of defense.
Great productive 4 years.
Listen, he is going to... I don't think he's... All right, so last year he lost a step. Had a lot of injuries.
That's what happens when you get older, though.
It does. It is. That's true. But I think he still has enough to where, like, yo, listen, if you're not going to double team me, you can't. That means you double teaming Bosa.
You can't.
And guess what? I'm going to be eating. And if you double teaming me, guess what? You leaving Bosa on the island by himself, and we know what Bosa can do.
And we don't even know what their plans for the draft is. They could probably draft a potential good defensive tackle in the draft, and then he could wreak havoc in the pocket.
Exactly. Now you got him in the middle. So it's like, man, listen, where do you honestly or not even defend, but more or less protect yourself as an offense to where these two dudes ain't just killing you every down like that? Like I said, the Chargers were smart, and that was a good pickup for them. And I just hope the Dolphins don't play them this year, because Lord knows Tua will be running for his life.
Tua was already ready for his life.
He was, but he'll probably be running a little bit more.
Right, so on the next news, we have Amari Cooper traded from the Cowboys to the Browns, and the Browns, that's a whole story in itself. But what do you think about that trade and how it's constructed?
I am not a fan of it. Now, as a player, because he does not have a no trade clause, he cannot dictate as to where he can be traded. He can obviously make suggestions to his agent. His agent can go back to the team and tell the team, this is where my client would like to go. It's not. And at the end of the day, listen, I'm not going to trade you to teams that you really want to go to,
or division rival like that.
Exactly, right? So guess what? I'm going to trade you to the worst of the worst,
aka NFL Siberia.
Yes. And you got between the Browns or the Lions or the Jags to go and end your career.
Basically,
and he is
football purgatory.
Yes, and he is there. And like I said, I like it for the Cowboys because, listen, we got rid of, not to say dead weight,
that $20 million cap hit.
We got rid of dead weight.
He was gonna make $20 million off the cap, and his production just didn't match the numbers.
It didn't match. And then you got CeeDee Lamb who's stepping it up.
Yeah.
And they got Gallup, who is like, listen, all right, he's up and coming.
He's injured. That's not a problem.
Yeah, he's definitely injury prone, but he's still up and coming to where, like, listen, Cooper, if you would have had a breakout year, if you had a Pro Bowl year, listen, I would have kept you.
No choice
but you didn't have that. So, like, we're not going to lose out on anything because you're not here anymore.
And then on top of that, you have to pay Dak. You have to pay Zeke. You gotta pay Demarcus Lawrence. You have to pay a whole bunch of other Peter, and he was the one of the cap hits that they had.
So it was like, man, I mean, once again, good move for the Cowboys. Terrible move for the Browns, because once again, let me not say terrible. It's a good move because they didn't have a receiver. They didn't have a number one. Peoples-Jones is, I mean, he's up and coming, possibly.
They released Juice, right?
Juice got released, but they're now trying to re-sign him to a 1-year deal. And I think with Watson, who we'll talk about later, with Watson being there, I think that actually, yeah. So what, we'll see how that works out. But like I said, I mean, I think it was between the two teams, that was a fair trade. Just to be honest,
a fifth and sixth.
Listen, once again, your production did not match last year for you to. I mean, listen, that was a steal for the Browns. I only gave you a 5th, 6th for that.
Yeah.
Man, listen, and on the other end, all right, well, we getting rid of this guy and not gonna take this $20 million hit. Hey, why not? Why not? So, like I said, it was a win-win in that scenario. So,
all right. So on other news,
coming in, yeah, flex. I just wanna win, yeah. LABB, who we running with, yeah. 2, 2, 3, 3, I'm on 10